Hello, Andrea, and thank you for being here today. As I explained to you, this interview is for our FSS 350 Food Science Seminar course at Bay Path University. What we would like to learn today is how you had chosen your career, the career path you followed to get to where you are today. What is it that you do, and how your education and background work together with this position. So what I want to start off with is getting to know a little bit about you. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up? Did you grow up here in town, and what schools have you attended? What kind of work do you do?
Well, first, let me say thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure speaking with you about my food science career. Yes, I did grow up here in town. I was born and raised in New Jersey. I had attended all of my schooling right here in New Jersey. I went to Clifton High School. I went to Fairleigh Dickinson University, where I completed my bachelor's in biology. I currently work for a global flavors and fragrance corporation as a regulatory manager.
I see. So you studied biology. Was that anything to do with food microbiology, or was that just biology?
I actually studied biology because I wanted to become a naturalist sector. I wanted to be a park ranger.
A park ranger. Now that's surprising. So tell me, how did you end up as a regulatory manager then?
Once I finished my degree in biology, I was hired from a large food corporation, Lipton. At Lipton, I started working behind a desk in the raw materials department. In that position, I was actually in purchasing, which required sometimes reading specifications and finding matching suppliers. I did that for about 5 years. Um, a bit down the road, I became more interested in the food production. So I completed my food science certification course. Luckily for me, I had become close with the lady who I was working with in production development. Once a position opened up, I found my way in. While I was in the position develop while in this position, I developed dry flavors and soup mixes.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you graduated with a degree in biology but completed a certificate in food science. So you took both biology and food science as a certificate course. Would you recommend only a food science degree?
Well, for me, it was useful to have the biology degree first because I attended the food science certificate, which was an advanced class. I already have the knowledge, the base knowledge of biology. Although I have to say, there are some really good universities that out there for food science degrees. So any student wanting to go into food industry, a food science degree would be the best way to go.
So let me step back a bit. You said you were working in the product development department with soup mixes. So how did you end up working as a regulatory manager?
When I was at Lipton, the production development department was moving to the Midwest. I didn't want to move from New Jersey. I think the Midwest was just too cold for me. Um, so I took the severance package and was going to be out of a job. What happened then was I um, went to an IFT meeting. This was a dinner style meeting. The people I was sitting with had been from a flavors company and they were looking for a regulatory specialist. Because of my knowledge of the raw materials, the product development, they gave me the interview and they hired me. Later, I attended the classes for regulatory law, and now I'm the manager.
Oh, so you said you studied regulatory law. So does your job right now in regulatory involve a lot of food science aspects?
Well, the thing about regulatory is that all the knowledge comes together. Many of the regulatory regulations, like the FDA regulations, involve interpreting and understanding how ingredients are used, how much can be used. Sometimes other foods have certain standards of identifying, like vanilla extract, which gives the amount of alcohol in the product. And especially in the flavor, the aroma, the industry understands some of the flavor and aroma chemicals products that exist of carriers, natural and artificial chemicals. So having that background in food science is needed for food chemistry.
So, would you be able to tell me what's a typical day like as a regulatory manager, and what would you say is rewarding about the career?
Well, a normal day starts off usually with reformulations. Then we work closely with the research and development department. We have early morning meetings to discuss customer flavors, which need compliance standards like non-GMO, organic, kosher certifications. Um, a little later in the day, we talk to the plant and production manager. We review the quality control reports, discuss any um, or corrective actions, things like that. Um, a large part of my day is reviewing the ingredients in compliance through the supply chain. In our regulatory department, we also are in charge of recalls. So we are the ones that make the mock recalls.
Well, thank you for that. So that leads me right into my next question. Would you mind telling me what food safety schemes does your manufacturing plant follow? Is it only GMP, or does the plant have a HACCP plan?
That's a really good question. Yes, our manufacturing plant follows good manufacturing practices. We have definitely a HACCP plan. The plan is one of the most important food safety plans to control critical points like allergens and cross allergens. Our manufacturing plant is also SQF level 3 certified. This is a good SFI plan that also helps our business with some of the large conglomerates in food production.
Oh, you said previously that flavors are complex food additives. You also mentioned natural and artificial flavors. Do you have any concerns about artificial flavors? Are they safe to eat?
Well, there's a lot of noise in the market about artificial flavors. And I can tell you, in flavors, that all of the chemicals that are used in flavors must be FEMA GRAS approved. FEMA, which is the Flavor and Extract Manufacturing Association, studies and tests each chemical, which also goes through toxicology studies. Um, Besides that, some of these flavoring chemicals have been around for many, many years. So I have no doubts in my mind that flavoring chemicals are safe to be consumed.
There seems to be a lot of data in flavors that has to be reviewed. So much of this data is reviewed by you and your regulatory team. What do you think the future of regulatory work is? Do you think that all of the answers will be provided by algorithms and software, or do you think that people will always need to be involved in the regulatory aspects of foods?
Well, they already do rely a lot on software in our industry. We use softwares like Compliance Engineer and SAP. These softwares help us do the work, but don't believe it will not do all of the work for us. Food is very complex products. They have many angles and options. They are many times, we have not only reviewed paperwork and data, but we also need to compare the results of the actual product. So I don't expect anytime soon artificial intelligence is going to take over our work.
Well, I have to tell you, Andrea, this has been a very interesting conversation, and you've really piqued my interest in food science as well as the flavor industry. Let me ask you just one last question. How do you achieve professional development? What suggestions could you give to a student pursuing a career in food science?
Well, I would first recommend to choose a food science program or a certification program. If you have food science background, it is really a more secure way to enter the food industry. Um, I started working in the raw materials, as you know, I had said, and I grew into that position. However, for a student just starting out, I must say, I believe going through a program or at a university would be a better choice. Secondly, I want to say read everything you can about food. Uh, Food chemistry, nutrition, ingredients, how they're made. Um, Read about food microbiology and food safety. Um, when you love what you do, reading assignments, it's not an assignment, it's a pleasure. I love what I do, and I recommend anyone looking for a stable career choose the food industry.
Well, Andrea, I have to tell you, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you for all of your guidance.
Oh, thank you for having me and enjoy your schooling.